Hello, my name's Ollie and this is Book Draw. For those of you that don't know what Book Draw is, it's basically my interest in queer fiction and then I make images from it. So if you're here today, you're looking at the A to Z of LGBT queer fiction, and this was created by George Lesser, and big shout out to him. Thank you for creating this list originally. This is the first video that I watched and I hope that you enjoy this list. A. Angel of History by Rabi Alhmendean. This book is brilliant. I've just finished doing reviews on it, so you can take a look at the tag on this one. And the story follows Jacob over a single night. He's reflecting on his previous experiences going through the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. It looks at some of his life story in terms of his early years growing up. But more importantly, the main theme of the book is about the change and erasure of history. B. The Book of Lies follows the character of Ross, who has the prestigious position of working in a Los Angeles university, and he's looking after the collection of the Purple Circle, a literary group of queer writers back in the day. However, when he starts reading through some of the materials, he discovers some unusual documentation, and it leads him onto a journey of detective work and discovery, and it makes him question his entire reality and understanding of history and academia. C. Candle and Sun by Margaret Steen. This book is focusing on the character of George. However, George is a bit of a... I was going to say tall then. George is a father with his loving wife called Blythe and his daughter Flavia. It reminded me of The Hours. It's actually the surrounding relationships to George. George is the innocent. It's more about his wife and his daughter, who are the kind of key characters. If you're interested in kind of the unravelling of domestic lifestyles and reasons why people pursue their own careers and interests in life, this is an interesting book on that level. D. Don't Let Him Know by Sandip Roy. This story is about an Indian family based in Illinois, and it's focusing on the relationship between the mother, the father who is in the closet, and their son.
E. Eileen by Otessa Morsvig. Now, apologies, I had to add this in afterwards, but Eileen is a character study. She's based in the 1960s in a small town, and she lives a bit of a dreary lifestyle. She dreams of escaping to a big city. Her personality is very queer, in that very kind of loose sense of the word queer. She forms this infatuation with this other woman, but she says she's definitely not a lesbian, but she has this deep crush on her, and she is both physically and emotionally attracted to her. The story is really kind of unsettling and gritty. She's actually quite a feral character, I'd say.
F. Fucking Martin by Del Peck, also known as Martin and John. Although the title is really aggressive as a name, please ignore that, because this is my all-time favourite read. It focuses on the relationship between Martin and John. However, it goes through different versions of themselves through different times, through different periods of their life, from children to adults. It looks at them as in terms of different types of people that they could have been throughout time, and it looks at the relationship that they should have had. And I will do a full review on this one later in future. G. Gorpa by Salim Haddad. Now this writer is like the love child between Jared Leto and Jude Law. I don't know if you've seen his picture, but he is cute. And like that has been a main drive for me wanting to read this story, which I feel really bad about, because it's actually one of those reads that you should read to educate yourself. The story is based in an unnamed Arab country, focusing on a 24-hour period of a character called Reza. It should give you the understanding of what it's like to be in that country and that climate. H. Hood by Emma Donoghue. This is set in the 1970s. It's an Irish love story between two women. However, one of them dies, and it's about Penn coping and dealing with the tragedy. The story focuses on Penn's grief and her relationship with her father, how she has to come to terms with that grief privately, having not told anyone that she was in love with this woman.
Hi, so this is I, which is In One Person by John Irving. Now again, this is the second time, last time when my recording messed up a little bit, but this book is based on, by the writer who also did Cider House Rules. It focuses on bisexuality and gender identities, and it's all relates loosely to how he would have liked to have lived, in terms of if he was a young person, almost like now, then he would have had these opportunities to explore his sexual identity. So I thought that was a really interesting concept of how you're kind of looking back on your own past in that way.
Just Girls by Rachel Gold. I've not actually read this story, but I'm interested by it, the sound of it. It's based on a relationship between two girls in college. One of them is a lesbian, one of them is trans. It should be an interesting read. Okay, Kafka on the Shore. Now I need to see this to read this out loud. Is by Haruki Murakami. Kafka on the Shore is a story about a young child who runs away and has this incredible magical journey. L, The Liar by Stephen Fry. This was one of the first LGBT books that I actually read when I was growing up. But The Liar follows a young male called Adrian, and in this world, he's a private school boy. They all seem to have some sort of male-on-male chemistry kind of going on, but Adrian is a complete chameleon in the way that he talks and interacts with other people, and his foundation of his life is based on a lot of lies, and the way he tells the lies, and it's about the troubles that it gets him into. It's incredibly funny and gripping and intelligent. M, Middlesex by Jeffrey, I'm going to read again, Eugenides, I think that's how you pronounce it. Middlesex is another one which I've not actually read, but it involves a own voice, I believe. But in terms of exploring intersex, another area which I feel is underread, especially for myself, so I'm looking forward to finding out more about that particular one. N, Not Your Sidekick by C.B. Lee. This one I found out through another booktuber called Capricioushelen. Her channel is amazing. A lot of the stuff is really fun, full of a great energy, particularly interested in fantasy-based fiction. She's very blunt and honest in her reviews. I just find her incredibly entertaining to watch. You should check her out. But Not Your Sidekick is focuses on a bisexual character who is basically doing an internship to another superhero, and it's about her growing as a person and kind of the relationship that she forms. O, Of Bodies Changed by Cliff James. This is a brilliant read. It focuses on the relationship between Jackie, trying to learn more about her brother Chris. It's an interesting kind of mystery which is wrapped up in fantasy, and it's a very gripping, different read which kind of looks at things like mysticism and politics and sexuality in a kind of broader sense. P, Proxy by Alex London. I literally found out about this today from A Boy Who Cried Books. It's another really good channel. I'll send a link in below as well. Proxy is a dystopian novel which focuses on two characters, Knox and Sid. Basically, Knox is someone who's privileged and can get what he wants, but if he messes up, as a consequence, Sid will have to suffer those consequences. And it's about their relationship with each other and how they have to work together. Q, The Quality of Her Voice by J.E.J. Burns. The story focuses the relationship between two women. One of them discovers this voice on the radio which changes her life, and she goes out and pursues her. R, Rage by Julie Ann Peters. This is about Joanna. She's a teenage girl. She's kind of normal, living out her life, and then she comes across her first intense love through Reeve, and it's about those explosive first time feelings when it all chemically goes a bit cray-cray. S, Supervillains with a Z. Another name I need to check. Alicia E. Goranson. Supervillains is a trans narrative looking at the kind of car chases and superheroes, and it's much more kind of fun and alternative as a different voice. T, The Tourists. The Tourists is a bit of a love triangle, which I know can be problematic for some hardcore booktubers. But it's more interesting in some ways because it has a focal point around a bisexual character who has had a previous relationship with a character called David, and who ends up going off, living out his life and marrying Simona. However, there is a situation that occurs that means that their lives are brought back together, and it all gets kind of complicated and interesting. I need to read this again. Under the Udella by Shinelo Okaparanta. So this is inspired by Nigerian folktales. It follows Ijoma, who is comes of age as does her nation and is born of independence. She is 11 when the civil war breaks out in the young Republic of Nigeria. I have not read this story yet. I was desperately trying to search for a U. This one seemed really interesting though, in terms of that kind of completely different voice as a coming in age story in a completely different political climate as well. So I'm definitely going to be checking out this one as a cool TBR. The Lancia by Michelle T. This is following a group of young women through a fast-paced romp of a ride set in San Francisco. It's got a lot of interesting and eventful things which happen. Another really good fast read. W. The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall. This is another one of those big epic reads, which I think is a really important read for a lot of people. It's one of those early published lesbian fiction novels. She kind of carved the way forward for other women to write, including people like Virginia Woolf. A person that I recommend who has done a really good review is Winks and Ink. She actually has a tattoo sleeve on her arm dedicated to The Well of Loneliness. I won't go into the story for now because I will be doing a full review of it later. X. Now I did this one as a stretch. The title is The God Box. A story focusing on two young men, Paul and Emmanuel. One of them is more out and open as a Christian and starts talking to the other, and it makes them question their understanding of their faith and religion, and makes them feel more at ease with their sexuality, and it's about that journey and transition. Why? You, Me and Him by Chris Dawson. This is a story of two friends who fall in love with the same guy, basically. And finally, Z, My Year Zero by Rachel Gold. Another coming-of-age story which focuses on Lauren, and she's living in a quiet country town, and she's not too sure how she's ever going to meet someone who's going to be of interest to her, and it's about the relationships and friendships that she forms. So, those are my 26 recommendations, LGBT fiction between A to Z. I hope that was interesting for you. I've had a lot of fun going through that list. A lot of those on the list I have not read, so it's given me something which I will be looking forward to. Big shout out again to George Lester. Thank you for creating this original list. I hope you've enjoyed these alternative 26, and I hope other people do too. Please check out those other booktubers which I've mentioned. All the links will be down below. I'll put the full list of all the books there and the Goodreads reviews there too. If you like my channel, please click the subscribe button, give me a like. If you've read some of these books, particularly the ones which I said that I need to read myself, I'd love to know your perspectives on them. It's been fun. Until next time, bye!